Welcome to this video here, which is struggling to load. My name is Logan, aka Spider Hands, and my throat is still feeling weird. Still feeling weird, man. Still feeling weird. You can see a little bit about what I'm into through this page, I guess. Not entirely. This is a pretty decent parts list. Like, we've got a pretty decent cooler, an 850 watt PSU. You know, the motherboard's alright. I can't see the CPU here anywhere. Up there somewhere we've got some Vengeance RAM. And yeah, this video got a lot of heat. It got a lot of heat. As you can see here, an earlier version included a video guide. Included a number of errors in the build process, and as a result we have removed it from this article. And apparently they've gone and put stuff in to help show people how to build it better. We can see here they've you know, it looks reasonably respectful. Is that the 1080? Accelerate GTX 1080. What is accelerate? What is accelerate? What is accelerate? What is that card there? I've never heard of accelerate cards. See this here. We're gonna watch the video and I'm gonna do some hot takes on it. I'm not gonna bully the guy though. I refuse to be that another person who bullies the guy. And I know that some of it is justifiable. I know there's the argument of saying he's giving PC builders the wrong idea. The reality is that if anybody has looked at this video, they would have seen all of the negative criticism. Not constructive, just the negativity surrounding this video. This one, where is it? Stop. No, don't get excited, Stefan Etienne. Okay? If anybody is watching this and thinks that this is how you're supposed to do it, after seeing all of the people who've responded, even the website, the Verge, responding with the whole don't do it like the video kind of thing, then I guess you're kind of a masochist. So this is still in the video. This is still in the article. I think they just were defeated at this point. Look at this. This is what my PC first looked like when I built a PC a year ago. This is the build by a person who just doesn't care about cable management. To be fair, the components are really neat. We're going to basically be looking at what stuff they did right. Because I think that's a lot more difficult and a lot more challenging than finding out what they did wrong. Because it's pretty obvious what they did wrong. I want to see if there's anything there which is really solid sound information that can help people. Because I think it's far too easy to just shit on someone when they put out content. I want to also acknowledge what they've done correctly. Because of this, I'm probably going to get pointed out as being like a white knight, or as someone who is trying to defend someone that shouldn't be defended. But my channel is so small that shouldn't be a problem for me. I'll just get downvoted or dislikes, and it's not the first time I've had a dislike, so that's fine. You know, like, this is a good start. Look how he's putting the RAM in. He's not just... The case is cool. The parts look really interesting. I mean, I think if the cable management had been done a lot better, I think this might have been a really, really sick build. It's a shame they chose a case like that. I mean, this is absolutely valid here, the 1080 Ti. There's more for what you want, future-proof. I think this is the guy who wrote the article as well as made the video. I don't think the guy is incompetent. I think this guy just maybe he was in a rush and he thought that he'd be able to get away with it. And the internet has said, no, you can't get away with anything because you make us angry, and so we need to show you how angry we can be whilst making fun out of you and exploiting this negativity for views on clickbaity YouTube videos. So We're gonna watch this. I know it's low res. 1080p won't work, or will it? It is 1080p. Let's begin.
So a few years ago, TC, or Managing Editor, built a gaming desktop, but it's kind of out of date, and it's definitely not going to hold up for Battlefield 5. So let's build a new one.
Why are you wanting to... Wait, stop already. Why are you getting ready to play Battlefield 5? Battlefield 5, I understand it's topical, but you've got a 1080 card in this rig. Wouldn't you have wanted to make this card with a 2080 Ti or something like that? If you're wanting to make it ready for Battlefield 5, because I thought the focus of Battlefield 5 was going to be ray tracing. Sorry, I shouldn't interrupt.
Gaming desktop for around $1,000, but I want to go all out, so I spent around $2,000. PC like this is going to be able to play most games at ultra settings. So what do you need to build a desktop? Well, of course, first you need a table. Preferably not metal. If it's going to be metal, have an anti-static working surface layered on top of it. Okay, first of all, I think this is really cool. I know there are videos which have shown that you can make PCs on carpet and stuff. Like Jay's Too Sensitive video where like he did a lot of things you weren't meant to do with PCs and nothing bad happened. And I've actually in the past, and I guess this will invalidate my opinion in a lot of people's minds, I have made PCs in the past without a surface like this. I've made them on the floor. Because sometimes when I'm working with my own PCs at like 1 o'clock in the morning, I don't have access to like a table that's convenient nearby that's big enough to handle the kind of PC I'm working with. So I do it on the floor. It's convenient, and there's carpet, but I've never had any issues with static. So this is a good start. Have a nice wooden table to work on with plenty of space. An Allen wrench, some tweezers to tighten up the wires, a Swiss Army knife which hopefully has a Phillips head screwdriver in it, and last but not least, an anti-static bracelet which is to protect you and the parts. These are the parts you're going to need, but more importantly, before we get there, we need to understand what these parts are doing and how they interact with one another. To better understand...
I feel like the anti-static band, I can agree with some people when they, like Bitwit pointed out in their kind of parody video, that he didn't have it connected to anything. It would have made sense to show how to connect the bracelet to the PC. That you need to connect it to a metal surface to kind of, or to connect it. You need to ground it, basically. And they didn't show how you grounded that. It was kind of confusing. I think beginners might get confused by that, but the idea is there as well. Like the intention is good start.
And the parts that make up a desktop, let's try to understand them individually. The processor is like the computer's brain, a base of calculations that control everything the computer does. The motherboard is like the foundation, serving as a main structure for all other parts to be added to. It also allows the other parts to communicate with one another, which also makes it kind of like a nervous system.
This is cool.
Graphics cards are responsible for rendering and processing visuals into what you see on screen. Our PC's power supply is of course channeling electricity, in that it adjusts and provides the right amount of energy to keep it running. Last but not least, RAM, or random access memory, and your hard drive are good examples of short-term and long-term memory, respectively. If you want to better understand what kind of computer to build, then first...
I feel like I was going to pause it to talk then, and I realized that it was kind of in the middle of his sentence. This is what happens when you're working with a video that has actually been reasonably well edited, is that they don't leave a lot of points where there's nothing. To The Verge's credit, this is a very well edited video. Even though this is a real upload of the original, this is very well done. I just want to say that while it's important to talk about a hard drive, I feel like the majority of new builders should probably be working with SSDs and an HDD if need be. I think they're putting the focus on a hard drive is potentially less ideal, because basically it's saying, hey, this is the industry standard now. Put a hard drive as your boot drive, when in reality an SSD, especially in M.2, would probably be a whole lot better. But it's that part where he talked about the power and the CPU and the memory. That's kind of stuff that I think is important for people when they're building.
Figure out what you want to use it for. A gamer might care more about a graphics card than, say, a video editor who might want extra RAM to assist with editing large files.
If you're building a budget build for video streaming, say under $1,000, you want to focus on parts, like a Core i5 or Core i3 processor, that require less energy. They'll be less powerful, but then you'll be able to scale back the cost of several other parts. And if you need help choosing the right parts for your build, there are sites like PCPartPicker.com that help show presets for which parts fit together, which sort of part conflicts you might have, and where to find deals on new parts.
See, that's perfect. Like, that's really good information. And this is stuff that I didn't see in a lot of other videos that have been going over this. They've been missing the points where they genuinely have decent information. It's like a lot of people have just been taking the opportunity to bastardize the original content to show them as incompetent. And I get that in the interests of comedy and interests of, what's the word I'm looking for, the term? It's fair use, that's right. So in interest of fair use, you have to edit something to make it into what you want it to be so that you're not just re-uploading the original copy. And I guess to a certain extent, I'm using the video in its entirety as the whole thing, but I'm trying to give it perspective in the field that it is in at the moment, where it's basically one of ridicule. I find it to be a bit of a shame.
We have a lot of boxes and a lot of PC parts, so it's best you unbox them, isolate the parts that you really need, place items into the case, and make sure that they all fit, and then start working. And now we're really going to start building by adding the motherboard in. Some notes about installing motherboards: they're really delicate, you should be really careful with them, and screw in with confidence, but also don't screw in too hard, otherwise you could crack the board. I chose Asus's Z370 motherboard for two main reasons. One, it has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and also it has support for NVMe SSDs, meaning you can...
Let's just stop here and talk about how this guy is the OG for thinking ahead. And again, another smart decision he's made is using a board which has integrated Wi-Fi. When I first got my gaming 3 motherboard back in September 2017 last year, that didn't have integrated Wi-Fi. So the problem that I had was I had to go spend another $70 on Wi-Fi instead of doing a bit more research and finding the $20 more expensive motherboard that had integrated Wi-Fi. In fact, the motherboard that I have at the moment doesn't have Wi-Fi in it, and I spent $300 and something on it. Like, the more expensive X470 boards have Wi-Fi, but they also have USB 2.0, and I don't know. AMD motherboards are kind of weird, man. I think this is where, like, Intel maybe have got the ball at the moment, is with motherboards. But I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule as well, but yeah.
You can get really fast SSDs that are really easy to install. Pay close attention to the brace that goes at the back of the computer. You always have to make sure that you really hammer it in, because there's no screw. It really just has to go outside of the case and clasp onto the frame. And this is very important, because otherwise you can't align the motherboard correctly with the holes.
I think the problem is that they showed him sort of messing. I think it's... I'm in two minds. Like, one, it's like, why are you showing him kind of struggling to get it sitting in there? But two, the reality is that if you're building for the first time, it is going to be like that. It's going to be like that. You're not going to get it perfect, and you're going to probably get frustrated. And I mean, the first PC took me 5 hours to build, and it was way less complicated than one I have now. But I could probably rebuild my computer in the space of maybe a couple of hours now, because I know what I'm actually doing. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I can see why people thought he was a little bit incompetent, but so far not too bad.
Start installing all 8 screws. So next we're going to install the RAM on the motherboard. I chose Corsair's 16GB Vengeance LED RAM for two main reasons. One, it has LEDs, and we do like lights in our gaming desktops. Secondly, it's pretty fast RAM. It's 2666 megahertz, I believe, so it's pretty fast, and this motherboard supports that speed, which is most important. Open the slots first, and just aligning the stick.
You're probably wondering why, like, if I know about computers, for instance, I wouldn't be sort of going, oh, it's not that fast, actually, there's like 4,000. Yes, there is, but that's 2600 is still pretty quick. I mean, that's DDR4 RAM at the end of the day. And if you've got like 16 to 32 gigs of that, you're pretty sweet. Like, I think people who are criticizing them for saying that 2600 is faster are missing the point that RAM speed, I would argue, isn't like nearly as important as having like a decent CPU or a decent graphics card. And I think you're fine. That's why a lot of intro builds, for instance, will have 2400 megahertz RAM. Like once you'll see it like in New Zealand we have Mighty Ape and PB Tech, they will include 2400 megahertz RAM because it's fast enough for people to be okay with it, at least when they're starting out with building.
With the middle of the strip, not with the end, and just lining that up with the logo. So once you hear that solid clasp and you don't see the gold connectors on the side anymore, that's when you know the RAM is in. Step 3, we're going to install the hard drive, or in this case, the NVMe SSD. I chose this format of solid state drive so that I could input it into the motherboard without having to worry about extra wires or putting it in a separate part of the case and just getting really messy. This is from Kingston, and it's 480 gigabytes, so it's not a lot, but you can always upgrade this and swap it out, and it's only
I think it's also good that he's saying there to get the 480 gig one. Windows installs the programs you need to monitor your computer in gaming. If that's like your only SSD, if that's your only storage capacity on your PC, please never get below 500 or like 480 at least, because you're going to have a bad time. That's good he's using 480.
held down by one screw and the latch, so it's really simple and really straightforward. Speed for gaming is important when it comes to a hard drive. You want files to write quickly and you want games to load quickly, so that's why it's best if you use an SSD.
Sweet.
Okay, so step 4, we're going to install the graphics card. I chose PNY's GTX 1080, which is overclocked, and so it's a pretty easy installation. You're just going to find the gold connectors, and you're going to line this bracket with
that's a cool graphics card,
of your PC case. Now, which lane you choose depends entirely on what other parts you're going to put in the system. I'm just going to pick the top one because the SSD is at the bottom and I don't want to cover it. I just think it looks nice. Click
okay, we need to talk about, and actually I said I wouldn't talk about the bad stuff. I think this is one of the more sort of ones this is a dangerous one, I guess. Up until now, things have been pretty solid. I'm really happy with how things have gone up until now. You've got to be careful with your motherboard about whether it's a times 16 or times 8 input on those PCI slots. If it's less than times 8, your GTX 1080 won't be able to run properly, and you'll experience some pretty severe hardware issues, or at least it won't run as needed. The reason that you'd want to choose the top slot is because generally on modern motherboards, that's at least a times 16. And on SLI motherboards, you'll either have a 16 or an 8 times PCIe on the second long slot like that. But anyways, okay, that one, man, a bit room for improvement there, bud.
Take your remaining brackets and just put them in the spots that you haven't used. You don't have to screw these in.
I like that. That's cool.
Bolted down by the back.
I want this case a little bit. It's a really nice case.
Power supply time. I chose Corsair's 850 watt power supply because I need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again. So all you have to do is
right, okay. So I've still got a bit of a throat thing. That's why I chose an 850 watt. Okay, that's really neat. That's clever. Okay, sorry, I'll let him talk.
And make sure that you align it with these little insulating pads so the power supply doesn't short circuit and
wait a minute. Hang on. Why did you just spend $1,000 New Zealand on a GTX 1080 if ray tracing cards were less than 2 weeks away at the time of making this video? Why did you do that? This confuses me. I'm not upset about it. It confuses me. The decision making here is kind of weird. The issue that we're seeming to have here is with graphics cards, with the PCI slot, with going from a 1080 to a 2080. He's pretty good with most of it. It's his look in his eyes right now. It's just the graphics cards at the moment that's kind of weird. I think that he'll have learned. Hopefully, if he's doing okay, I hope this guy's doing okay. Because I feel bad when people on the internet get this bullied. Like, I feel bad for this dude.
Contact with the rest of the system. So just take it in, slide it in nice and easy until you have a snug fit.
That's a cool case, man.
Back and make sure it's right up against the frame. Now you just take the required screws and you tighten and
What an
screw in.
awesome case that is.
So next step, we're going to install the CPU cooler. In this case, it's going to go on the top end of the case, and we're just going to have the hose hang out for a little while until we install the
Carla, we're gonna get a case like that. I like this guy's case. I really like this guy's case. If I do a smaller build, I'm gonna put it in a case like that. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little tribute build to this guy's PC. I'm gonna put my 99% 1066 gig in it. I think that'd be a nice little tribute. I'm 100% serious on that. I think this is the PC case I'm gonna use.
processor, which is going to come a little later. Always be sure to try to place it in the system
Wow,
first before you
that's a
install it.
10
As you can see, it takes up a lot
What? You can use a 280 radiator? That's amazing. Man, this case is awesome. I don't even care about like the video anymore. I just care about this case.
of space. But in this case, no pun intended, it fits in perfectly, and we're going to start screwing it in. And so there's nothing
Whoa,
special
no,
about
no,
this
no, no,
screwing
no.
in process. They're just really long screws because they go through the entire frame of the cooler, and they take forever.
What are you doing?
So next up, cables. Every power supply is going to come with a big bag.
No,
of
no,
Velcro
no, no,
cables.
no. We have to talk about this. Because you need. The reason they're long is because they have to go through the fans. So far, to the credit of the creator of this video, neither of these things are going to actually severely damage your PC. Your graphics card is just not going to perform as well if it's not in the top slot. And the guy is saying just put it in the top slot regardless. So I think most people would if they were watching this video. That there, without the fan, that is weird to me on many levels. I don't understand it. Why would he do that? Like, why would he do that? Because you'd surely with radiators, you usually have a push-pull configuration. You usually have two fans on each side. If it's a 280, you'd have 2 times 140mm fans on each side. And what you do with those fans, right, is you would get them, the ones on the front of the case, if you have the radiator at the front of the case, for example, would be pulling fresh air in, and the fans on the other side of the radiator would be pulling it out of the radiator so that it went out so the fresh air went into the case. But obviously, and I acknowledge this, the better outcome is for you to have two fans on the top of the case with the radiator as an exhaust, and the radiator would then be sending the hot air outside the front of the case. I personally would prefer to have the radiator at the top, but then I have a P400 case from Fantex because I didn't know better.
It's kind of daunting at first, so you always have to find the ones that are going to fit. In this case, you need to match those cables with the correct descriptions on the power supply. Next step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard with a 24-pin cable. We're just matching that cable from the motherboard, threading it through the back, and attaching the 24-pin header to the power supply so that we can have one of the connections complete. The next few additions will be for the GPU, for any specific ports that the case has, for any lighting that the case has, the CPU cooler, anything else really. We're installing the CPU, the heart of the computer or the brain, depending on how you look at it. So to do this, we're just going to remove the plastic covering that they put on the motherboard. We're just going to take this little plastic part out. Just toss that out of here. And now we have the exposed CPU.
Why did he throw it? Why did he throw it? What was that? Why did he do what? Was that meant to show nonchalance? Was he trying to be cool there? Like,
Holder, or rather,
by the way, this here, where is it?
out of here. And now we have an
This isn't looking too obnoxious at the moment, although I would question what's happening with this area over here.
CPU holder.
Actually no, if we go back.
And now we have an
That there. I mean, this is a bad sign. Although I'm wondering if it is the case. If it is the case. I'm wondering if it's the case with the motherboard cable. And I know they showed a close-up of it before, but
slot. on the motherboard. And we're going to use the CPU applicator. This is a special little part that not everyone may get, but this motherboard that we got from ASUS definitely does have. It's called a CPU installation tool. It makes it really useful if you want to install a Core i7 hexa-core CPU. Yeah, we've got one, and it's an 8th generation chip, and it's ready to go, and it supports overclocking. So what having this little installer does for you is it's basically a brick.
If you're getting a chip that can support overclocking, and you have a radiator, you need to have fans. You need to have fans. Okay? You need fans. If you have a radiator, you need to do push-pull configuration. Ideally, with the radiator as an exhaust. Okay? It's really important. Really super important. If you're overclocking your CPU, to have fans on the radiator. I cannot stress this enough.
Base that you can apply right to the CPU and light it up.
I
with
wanted
the
this to be really
triangles that
positive, but
you'll
it's
see
kind
on
of
the bottom
mixed.
left corners. And this will make it easier for us to apply it to the motherboard and then apply thermal paste and then apply a CPU cooler on top. And we're just going to carefully lean it down into the system and make sure that everything lines up, and we're going to clasp down on it and we'll be good to go.
It looks
we're about to apply
clean.
thermal paste to the CPU. Every CPU cooler actually comes with a bit of thermal paste already neatly applied in a circle around it, but it's usually not enough. It's good, essentially PC building practice to have a little bit extra and layer it on top of the CPU. The final portion is to add the CPU cooler to the top end of the processor. So you're going to see that there are 4 brackets here with brackets and holders right here.
I feel
And they're
physical
going to keep
pain
the
looking at
cooler
that.
raised off the processor, but it's also going to be close enough to actually physically
Oh
punch
no,
contact with
this
it.
is where it
Basically
gets
keep
bad, isn't it?
Take thumb screws like this.
Oh boy.
Just screw
Oh
them on.
no.
So now that our internals are done, we're going to put all the panels back on.
No,
Top
no,
glass,
don't
side
do
glass,
that.
front glass, and of course the back panel where all of this fun
I'm
stuff.
so upset.
So we fully built
I'm
the
really
PC,
upset looking
everything's
at that
put
now.
together, and we got
It
the
just went
screws.
so wrong
So what's
in the
next?
space of a
Well,
minute.
You need a USB flash drive with your Windows installation media.
I'm
on it,
so...
and of course
No.
a license key. So I plugged that up, installed Windows in a couple of minutes, installed a bunch of drivers, and now we have a fully functioning gaming PC ready to run some games. Right now I've got Armor 3 running at maximum settings, native resolution, which is 1080p HD.
But you don't
And it's running
have
pretty smooth.
fans on your radiator. How is anything... I'm not joking. I think there have been some reviewers of this video who have sincerely been acting more upset and pissed off and agitated and shocked than they are. I can't imagine how some of these reviewers of this video can be as reacting the way they are. I can't. Sincerely, I cannot believe their behavior. But just maybe I'm wrong, and maybe now they are being completely reasonable with what they've been uploading. Maybe I am the one that needs to buck my ideas up, because I feel violated after watching that last 2 minutes of this build. The guy just shoved the cables in there and did nothing with them, and he was just like, oh, that's cool. And I'm not talking about it from a CPU perspective, like as in like a thermal perspective. I'm not talking about it even from an aesthetic perspective anymore. I can understand as a builder, because I was that builder when I first built my PC. I just wanted to get it working, and I mean my build at the moment has 2 SSDs and has 3 SSDs including an NVMe drive. It has 8 fans in it. It has a GTX 1080. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know, man.
Like I'm averaging 70 and 80 FPS, and this is normally like a very intensive game to run, and it's still doing a pretty good job. So right now I'm playing League of Legends. It's one of my favorite games. I'm actually
What is the is this the original way they shot this? From like a cinematography viewpoint, from like a lighting viewpoint, this lighting is just awful.
Playing against a bot.
He looks like he's diseased. Why is the color like this? Why is the set like this? Is this just is this like, you can see they've put, I know this stuff. I know the word for it. This stuff around, they can see they put production value into this, but the coloring just looks disgusting in this video.
And I'm distracted, so I'm not actually doing so well. But otherwise, like, this is pretty much what you would see me do on a gaming computer. Test stuff out, and hopefully have...
How have you only got 120 frames in League of Legends? Oh, it's because it's a 120 hertz monitor?
really high frame rates like I am right now. I'm averaging 120 FPS, and that's only because I've actually locked the game to that frame rate, because I can get around 300 FPS playing League on maximum settings.
Cool,
cool.
That makes a lot more sense.
And you don't really need that, so I've locked it. Building a gaming desktop has been a great experience. I'm able to max out a lot of my favorite titles, and I'll be able to play a lot of upcoming titles like Battlefield 5 and Cyberpunk 2077 without worrying too much about the parts I have. When ray tracing GPUs come out, for example, I'll be able to upgrade without having to buy a completely new system. And if I have a problem down the line, I can always just swap out a part and have it serviced rather than losing my whole computer. And of course, now we also have a computer to test and benchmark games here at the Verge. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you've built a computer before yourself, or how you would spend $2,000 on your own build. I'm really interested in seeing what
$2,000.
And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Verge if you haven't already.
You know, do I feel like this was a complete waste of time and energy by them? If they had gotten the information right about the PCIe slot, and if they had gotten the fans right on the Radiator, if they had talked about the push-pull thing because they had a Radiator, a really decent, like they had fans on they had fans on the case and the thing. They would have had fans with the Radiator. It makes me so angry because they could have easily avoided this if they just put the fans on the Radiator before. Or they could have installed it like that. And I understand it's difficult. I understand that it's difficult to get the fans squeezed in between, you know, the case and the Radiator. But that's why you're making this video, right? It's to show people what you would do if you were going to build a computer with $2,000 US. And you showed complete beginners to not have fans with their Radiator. Okay? This here shows fans. I can forgive them, in a sense. I can forgive them for having just this, whatever the heck this is, cable production, because at least they had fans there. And I get that it's a small case. I'm just lost for words. They could have even have said, right? Hey, you probably don't want to have your cables like this. We'll probably do some further cable management down the line. If there was one thing we could change, it would be this cable management situation, because it isn't ideal. Like, I remember when I did my first PC build for a client, I didn't have enough time to get the cables looking quite right. So what I did was I went back to their place later on and fixed it up. Because when you build a PC for someone, you don't want that person to have a shitty looking PC when they use it every day. That person spent $3,500 on the parts alone. And the last thing you want when they're spending another $300 on getting you to build it is for you to do something like this. Basically, they had a situation where they had a really good start, and then just near the end, it just kind of just fell to pieces. And it was a shame, because I think that the information presented at the start of the video was really solid for the most part. The stuff about different builds for different types of use cases and stuff like that. It's all really cool information, but the problem is that they put it forward in a video that also showcased the problems that can come from lazy building. And they showcased just how meaningless all the planning can be. All the planning and all the part building. Nobody's going to buy this. Nobody is going to buy this PC because nobody wants to have a PC that looks like that. The only people who will buy a PC like that are the people who know the value of the parts and can probably do something with what exists to make it look a lot nicer so that they get a value for cheap. Because I am certain that you could sell that PC for at least 20 to 30% more than what people think it is if the cable management is good. Because the problem with these kind of situations is that when you don't build a PC properly and when you're careless with the aesthetics and you're careless with the planning, it makes it look like you could have done a lot more wrong than you actually have. Positives wise, I think a lot of the information was really solid in this, and I think they meant well. I'm glad that they clarified that League of Legends could do 300 frames if the frame rate was unlocked. I'm glad that they covered the fact that the 1080 wasn't just a 60 frames at 1080p card, because it isn't. The 1080 should be able to handle 1440p at 60, if not 120 frames on most modern games. And in fact, quite honestly, that's where the 4K elements of gaming should have come. Like, the reality is that the 1080 can do 4K in a lot of different games in SLI config. If more games were built for SLI and could handle it, we wouldn't need a 20 series cards at all, apart from for ray tracing, which is what should be the situation. But of course, it depends on developers and whether they want to make games for SLI. And while there are a lot of games that do feature SLI, hang on, where's the list? Where's the list of games with SLI? Here you go. Look, there's all these games with SLI. All of these games with SLI. There are 31 pages of games that have SLI. Fallout 4, Star Wars Battlefront, Shadow Warrior 2, The Witcher has SLI, Assassin's Creed, Mad Max, Tom Clancy's The Division, Talos Principle, Metal Gear Solid 5, Battlefield, Evolve, Homeworld Remaster, Project Cars, The Crew, Far Cry 4, World of Warcraft, Dark Souls 2, Borderlands the pre-sequel. And I understand it that these are there are some older games here. There are some older games here which have SLI. I understand that that's kind of a thing that's kind of dying, but the reality is that there are still a shit ton of games which can benefit from SLI configs. At the same time though, really, 1080 for 1080, a GTX 1080 for 1080 and 1440p is completely fine, and a 2080, like he's been talking about, where is it? Where is it? Where is the 2080? Yeah, here we go. So that's cool, because the 2080 is definitely a 4K card. But this PC is practically overkill for like 1080p gaming anyways. Like, I was getting like 230 frames, 240 frames on a 1066 gig. Still, I think there's been a lot of positives and a lot of negatives. Well, not a lot of negatives. There's a few really key issues with it. I think this has been done to death. Yeah, I'm good. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this gives 46 minutes. Oh, this is going to take so long to edit. Why do I do this? Why do I do this to myself? I'll be back with a video next time. Oh my goodness, it's going to take so much editing. I'll stay cool. See you later, and yeah, I'll have another replay or refund up on Monday. Bye bye.